All right, welcome to the November 16th Select Board meeting. Please note that in accordance with the emergency orders announced by Governor Charlie Baker, this Select Board meeting will not be open to the public for physical attendance, and the Select Board members are meeting online via Zoom web conference. The meeting is being live streamed and cable broadcast by the Easton Community Access Television, which is Comcast 98 and Verizon 23, and on ECAT's website at www.eastoncat.org. If you're watching this at home and you have a question or a comment, you can email mblanchard@easton.ma.us or pose your question on the Q&A feature of the Zoom portal. Please remember to include your name and street address for our minutes. At this time, I'd like to ask each Select Board member to state their name to ensure that we have a quorum.
Barger.
Broussard.
Chuck King.
Mark Lamb.
And Dottie Fulgenetti. Terrific. So first item that we have on here is a timed item, and we're a little bit late for that, so I appreciate the patience. Is the joint meeting of the Finance Committee to interview and appoint a new member for a vacancy?
Sure. Mike, could we start shifting the Finance Committee members over into the panel view? And then I would ask, I'll wait till Patrick's here because I don't want him to miss this while he's in transition. All right, Patrick, once the quorum of your board is here, if you could call the joint meeting to order. And then Dottie and Patrick, it's your show. I believe the applicant is here as well and should be moved into the panel to be interviewed by the 14 or 13 of you, I believe.
So I do see a quorum as of now. We have 6 members, if I'm counting correctly. Correct. So this is the November 16th joint section of the both Select Board and FinCom to discuss an applicant for a vacancy. We have 6 members of the FinCom in attendance, so we do, as I've repeated, and I'm going to apparently say again, have a quorum. With that, this is my second round doing this, and I still don't remember what we're doing, so I think I'm going to pass it back over to Dottie to pretend that I look like I know what I'm doing.
Sure. So we have an opening for the FinCom, and we have an applicant, Shireen Diaz, and Shireen has served on other boards in the town. So we want to start by thanking you for being here tonight, Shireen, and welcome. And open up with a question of, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your experience, and about your interest in serving on the Finance Committee?
Good afternoon. My name is Shireen. My interest in serving on the committee has to do with my background. I have probably over 30 years of experience in nonprofit management, managing various nonprofits and also federal and state grants. I am a public servant at heart. I do have my bachelor's from Bentley University. I'm currently studying at Suffolk University to receive my master's in public administration with a focus on disability and health policies. And I also have a fellowship at UMass Medical Center focusing also in disability and health policies. And so I am currently on the board with Craig, the Green Community Committee's tongue twister. But my passion is in accounting and finance with my other passion of disability work. I've been a member of Easton for the past 13 years. I am a single mom. I moved here as a single mom. I do have 3 teenagers, 15, 17, and 19, 1 in college and 2 at the high school.
So you want to do this to get out of the house, right?
Well, I would like to have grown-up conversations. How's that? And get some real feedback.
So, I guess, Patrick, do you have any specific questions that you want to lead off with?
Yes, thanks. So essentially, the question I have is that I obviously looked at your background and I looked into your application. What's sort of the drive here, other than pretending to get out of the house during COVID? But is the drive that you just want to get more invested and more engaged with the town and do more than what you've already done with the committees that you've been on?
Yes, and also I do have an interest in serving or working for the state. And so the hope is when I graduate in December of next year, I will be moving towards a state position. So it's a program that I'm in with a fellowship and the master's with the exposure to work for the state.
Excellent. So this is a good sort of
It's a good stepping
getting
stone.
involved.
Yes, it's a great stepping stone.
Excellent. The other question I was going to ask, and then I'll open it up to the rest of the FinCom here, is that is there anything that you've seen using? To be fair, your background's incredibly impressive. Probably
Thank
all
you.
of us combined on the FinCom could probably maybe scratch one line item of that. So I look forward to you taking over very quickly in a coup. But in the meantime, are there any unique challenges that you've seen as far as how towns are managing the current financial crisis that your background or your sort of unique position in viewing how things are going that you might be able to add to the conversation? And it might be sort of a leading question because you might not have dug too deep into it. But at the same time, I wasn't sure if there's any opinions or any viewpoints on that yet.
So I currently don't have any viewpoints specifically towards finance. My passion is in the disability space, and so lots of disparities, lots of work that needs to be done in that area. I am grateful for Easton in the special ed department. I do have my last kiddo with autism, and they have been extremely helpful and available in communicating with us, not after the fact, but beforehand. So I'm super impressed with that. When I compare what Easton is doing to other towns, we're definitely ahead. And Teresa Skinner is definitely a great director.
Excellent. Thank you. With that, I'll see if there's anyone else in the FinCom. I'll at least do my side first that has any specific questions. Feel free to jump in.
Hey, Shireen, this is Tim Vamosi. I just wanted to say thank you for stepping up and getting involved in this particular area, town finance. And I did look at your application; it's very impressive as well. And congrats to you for taking on public health administration in the times of COVID.
Yes, it's a challenge, but I'm up for it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I did see it's a I think if memory serves, this is a 2-year vacancy, if I'm correct on that. And I guess my question is, do you intend on running for election after the 2-year vacancy is up?
So I was told that
It's not a
April-
vacancy,
April.
It's through April.
April 2021.
Okay, thank you. I was unsure on that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I guess the question, Shireen, would be, do you think you would run for FinCom in April 2021?
So here's the answer to that question right now. Right now, I am a Black woman with a disability myself. Super excited to be called to serve, and so I'm stepping up to the challenge. And I will see how things progress, and we'll take it from there as we get closer to that point.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We can convince you. We're very convincing people. Anyone else? Does anyone else have a question? I did have one from one of our attendees that's not here, Jen Stacy. She had her background has a lot of mediation as well, and so she actually saw that point on your resume or your application, and she thought, have you used any of your mediation skills in the context of financial management? Because obviously,
Yes.
town government, it's right there, right?
Right. It's so most of my positions have been CFO or Director of Finance and Administration, and so with that, I often have a staff that I'm managing. So I'm definitely managing down, but then also being part of the executive management team, I also have to manage across. And so tone is super important as you're managing across, and also collaborating with your peers is also super important. So that class that I took, it was at a point in time when I had a staff of 11 that I was managing in the finance team. And so now, currently at the Disability Policy Consortium, the executive team is made up of 4 individuals. And so that skill set has been super helpful. Previously, I have volunteered with the Brockton Courthouse to mediate cases on Tuesdays. Definitely with COVID, I have not been part of that process.
Terrific. Any other questions from anyone on FinCom? Okay, any questions from any members of the select board?
Questions, just a comment. This town will be very well served by you. I thank you for stepping forward. And your resume, you might outshine all of us, and I hope you will. The finance committee is a very convincing group. They're a good group of people, and I think they might hook you in.
Okay, we'll see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
I'm very excited that you have stepped up for this role. I will miss you on the Green Communities Committee.
Thank you, Craig.
But we look forward to working with you on the Finance Committee.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Rain,
Okay.
I would just echo with what the folks before me said. Really appreciate you stepping up, and very impressive background. And I hope you can bring that to great benefit for not just FinCom, but for our community overall. So thank you very much.
Tom.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, if Patrick, if you want to get a motion in a second, and then we'll do a roll call vote, but out of courtesy, as this is a FinCom appointment, I'd like to ask that you pull the FinCom first, and then we'll just jump in with starting with Craig in our normal role.
So do I make the motion or should I ask for the motion?
You can ask for the motion.
Good. I would like to ask for a motion from anyone else.
Motion to appoint Shireen to the Finance Committee.
Can I get a second? Thank you.
So that was Michael DiPietro and Jeremy Tamello for our minutes. Just wanted to.
Perfect.
So Lisa will not kill me tomorrow for not saying the names.
Excellent. So I will go down the list then. DiPietro,
Yes.
Tamelio,
Yes.
Neely,
Yes.
Famosi,
Most is yes, and welcome aboard.
Stebbins,
Evans, yes.
and Helen is a yes. Back to you, Dottie.
Okay, Connor, do I need to take a motion in a second, or can we just, okay. Craig, starting with you.
With pleasure, yes.
Broussard, yes. Thank you.
King, yes. Welcome.
Lamb, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. So thank you so much, Shireen. We really appreciate you wanting to join this. It's a very important committee, and our town clerk will be in touch with you to give you the information on the swearing in. And
Okay.
we look forward to you bringing your ideas to the commission, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Dottie. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Shireen. Good night. Thank you.
So next up, we also have a timed appointment for the Community Preservation Committee appointment. We have,
Dottie, I'm sorry, but before you move forward to that, the finance committee, we need to adjourn.
No.
sorry.
Can I get a motion to adjourn from someone on the FinCom?
Mostly so moved.
Stebbins, second.
DiPietro,
Yes.
Tamelio,
Yes.
Neely,
Yes.
Famosi,
Yes.
Stebbins,
Yes.
and Helen's yes. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Guys. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Almost kept the Finance Committee here for a long time. Okay, now we will we will interview candidates for the Community Preservation Committee. We have 3 applicants, Matthew Craig, Andrew Fleischer, and Michael Goodman. So let me see. Lisa, I think you sent me a memo today that there were a couple of people that were not going to be able to attend. So I'm sorry I didn't have time this afternoon to mark my paper on that. So I don't see Matthew Craig on here.
So my notes indicate that Matthew Craig is still to be considered, and that Andrew Fleischman, who is here, withdrew consideration from the contested interview, which is for CPC, although Andrew is still interested in the Taxation Aid Committee. And that, so that would leave you with Craig and Goodman for the 2 candidates for CPA.
Well, Andrew, if Andrew is here and we can move him over, why don't we, I'd like to just talk to him about that to see if he really wanted to withdraw, or if that's kind of unusual. So I just want to make sure that he is confident that he does not want to be interviewed for this.
Hey, Donnie, it's Michael Blanchard. While we're waiting for Andrew, just for the attendees, someone is logged in, but it only lists their phone. It's a Galaxy S9 Plus. If that is one of the persons to be interviewed, if they could hover over their name and rename themselves so that we know they're here, we could move them over.
Okay, great. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Hi. Good evening.
Hi.
Yes, that was my intention to be considered only for the Taxation Aid Committee.
Okay.
I was hoping to get involved in one or the other. And
One or the other.
since the time after I applied, I've decided to go for the Taxation Aid Committee.
So the Taxation Aid Committee is not going to be, that's going to be from time to time. It's not going to be a big lift for that one. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood what the role was in each of those, and to see that, you know, we were communicating completely on that.
Sure. As this is my first foray into Easton town government, I think I would just take one step at a time, and I think that committee is probably best suited for my background.
Sure. Well, I know this is probably a little unconventional, but rather than move you back and then move you back in again, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in the Taxation Committee, and then when we get to that part, we won't have to have you re-interview for that.
Sure, that's perfectly fine. My name's Andrew Fleischer. I have spent the last 10 years of my life as a tax specialist and tax accountant focused in sales tax and property tax and other indirect taxes, working with corporations, most recently and currently with CVS Health, located at the corporate office in Rhode Island. Before that, I got my bachelor's in political science, so I've always had a passion for politics as more of a hobby, considering my job. And I have spent time, I recently just moved to Easton a year ago. Before that, I lived in Dedham, where I spent 4 years on the as an elected representative on the town meeting. And that was very enlightening and very rewarding as well. So my hope with this position is to take some of my experience working on the corporate side of indirect tax and property tax, and really take an opportunity to get involved and to give back and to do some public service. And I saw this come up and I figured it was perfect.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, especially someone who's new to the town, who's willing and interested in participating. So we appreciate that. Any questions from the board? No? All right, we are going to move you back into the attendees, and we're going to resume our conversation about the Community Preservation Committee, and then we'll get back to the Taxation Aid Committee shortly. So I don't see anybody else for the Community Preservation. So we have Matthew Craig and Michael Goodman, and I will start by saying I would make a motion to nominate Matthew Craig.
Second.
No one else is around, Dottie, I'm sorry,
No,
I missed that.
Is the CPC, how many seats are available? Just one?
just one.
And how many members on the committee, if it's full?
I think 7. I can check for you.
Okay, no, that's all right.
No, we'll only take a moment. But right now, in the guests and the attendees, we do not have either Mr. Craig or Mr. Goodman. And for anyone watching, we did invite and send the information to all candidates last week. And as is the board's practice, you can make appointments. In the absence of an interview, you do have the candidate interest statement. So it's actually 9 members on the CPA committee, and there's 1 vacancy from a citizen representative set to expire in June of 2023.
All we have to go on is their resumes or, what they filled out and sent in.
Yes.
Okay.
So I made a motion. I don't know if somebody seconded it or if Craig, you just had a question. Tom, did you second that?
I did. Broussard, second.
Okay. Any discussion? You want to go right to the vote? Roll call vote starting with you, Craig?
I really don't like doing this without interviewing people, but Roger Craig.
Broussard, Craig.
King, Goodman,
Lamb, Goodman.
Full Janetti, Craig. So that's 3 for Craig and 2 for Goodman. All right, next, the Conservation Committee appointment. This is also contested. We have 2 applicants for this, Michael Goodman and Charles Malo. And I think I saw Charlie Malo in the, yes, move him over. Charlie, we can see your name, but we can't see you or hear you.
can you hear me now, Dottie?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, I don't know why my picture's not up there, I have no idea.
Do you have the
Go to
ability?
go to video, click on the video part at the bottom left.
Start video?
Yep.
Yep.
Look at that, now we get to see your handsome face. Come on, Charlie.
Hang on a second.
Yeah, start video. Click on it.
Okay, here we go.
So Charlie, very briefly, because we have a very packed agenda tonight, we just want to ask you if you could tell us what your interest is and just tell us a little bit about yourself for your interest in the Conservation Commission.
Okay, in the consideration of your time, basically everything's on my resume if you folks have had the opportunity to review it. But I've been involved in, building in over 53 years. And one thing that's not on my resume, Town of Falmouth has a very stringent Concom, and I was doing a big project down there, and one of the elements was a point discharge for the drain run for the storm drains, and it really wasn't going to go anywhere. So I actually designed, which is in wide use today, leach and catch basins. So the ground with the sewage is all, the storm drain was actually leached into the ground, much like a septic system, and nothing was discharged into the wetlands, and they were pretty impressed by that.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from anyone on the board?
Resume.
And I know that Charlie, you had applied for this earlier when there was a vacancy, and we didn't pick you for that one. So I appreciate you coming back again for this opportunity. This vacancy expires June 30th, 2023, and you're aware of that?
Yes. One thing I'd like to say too, Dottie, I think we've got a good board. And I'm going to be very frank. I've seen some meetings I've watched, and there's been some controversy and a little bit of conflict. And I think if I'm appointed, I can round out that commission and be a big asset to it and help them out a lot. And I'm going to, for lack of other dialogue, I'm going to say a little bit of guidance, maybe from somebody with a lot more years. And I think I'd be an asset to the commission.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right. Well, you can put Charlie back into the attendees. We appreciate you being here tonight, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome, Kurt.
Thank you, Charlie.
And I also do not see the other candidate in the attendees either. So, so we will take a vote on this as well. And I would make a motion to appoint Charlie Malo for the term to June 30th, 2023. Can I get a second?
Second, Broussard.
And a roll call vote, Greg?
Barger Malo,
Broussard Melo.
King Malo,
Lamb Malo.
Full Janetti Malo. Terrific. And Charlie, if you're still listening, congratulations. And the town clerk will be in touch with you about the details on how to get sworn in and about the meeting schedule. Next, I'm just going to go right to the next item 3 for action and discussion for the uncontested appointments, because we do have some of the people in the waiting room for that. And then we'll go back to the beginning of the agenda. I just don't want to keep people waiting. So for the Taxation Aid Committee appointments, it's uncontested, but this is the first time we're appointing to this committee. So we have 3 candidates, and we already spoke with Andrew. I'd like to bring Megan Ferguson over, and let's just talk to her for a minute, and then the other candidate, Meta Midred. So.
Hi, I don't know if you can see me, but my name is up there.
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
All right, hold on. Here we go.
Yep.
Wow. Good to see
Hey,
you.
Megan.
Hi, how are you all?
Hello.
We appreciate you being here tonight. And if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and why you really want to be on this committee.
My name is Megan Ferguson. I've lived in Easton for 22 years. I have been involved in the state legislature way back in the day when I was young and, you know, single. And I've always been very interested in politics on every level. And I've never really gotten involved in town politics, but I feel like this is the time for me to step in. I'm a realtor. I've been a realtor for the past 5 years. I'm a political science major as my academic background from Framingham State. I was a legislative aide to the Minority Leader's Office, again, way back in the day, but it's something that I am always following. I feel like I'm very invested in Easton. I have 3 children. One is 21, she's in college. My second one is 19 and works at Buddy's Union Villa, washing dishes. And I have a freshman in high school at OA.
Great. So why, out of all of the committees, why the Taxation Aid Committee?
I just feel like I would have a good, like, level-headed perspective on that. I think that everybody deserves a chance to have a break on their taxes if they really need it, and they put forth the effort to come, you know, in front of us and plead their case.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the board?
Thank you, Megan, for stepping up.
Sure. Thank you very much, and we're going to put you back into the attendees.
Okay,
And
great. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Oh, thank you.
There, guys.
And I don't see Committa in the list of attendees. Am I accurate on that? No. So this is three seats open, and it's uncontested. We have 3 candidates. The term expires on June 30th, 2023, and the candidates were aware of that. So if somebody would like to make a motion to appoint the slate, we can look at it like that.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard?
Roger Broussard, and a roll call starting with you, Craig.
Barger, Slate.
Broussard, Slate.
King, the Slate.
Lamb, Slate?
Full Janetti, the slate. So thank you, Megan and Andrew, who are still in the attendees section. The town clerk will be in touch with you about getting sworn in and instructions on how to move forward with that. So we appreciate you stepping up for that. Now, let me just go back to the beginning for the proclamation of appreciation to the election workers and Easton employees. Connor, do you want to give a little introduction to that?
Sure. So as the board, and I think many members of the public are aware, many of our employees and volunteers who support them have had to step up in a variety of different ways this year in response to coronavirus. And I think a really clear and compelling example of that has been the work of elections offices around the country and here in Easton to administer safe democratic exercises under a variety of strange circumstances relating to the pandemic. And, you know, Dottie and I spoke about it and thought that that was probably and perhaps the most visible example of on the town side of the extraordinary efforts that folks have had to go to continue to conduct the business of the public. But that it's certainly not the only one, and it's one of actually many and continuing examples of the extraordinary efforts by not only our elections staff led by Danielle, but police and fire, public works, certainly Kristen and the health department, CERT team, board of registrars, so many different board and committee volunteers to continue to keep things moving under these circumstances. And so we drafted a letter that Dottie, I would ask, I know it's a little bit lengthy, but perhaps you could either read most or all of it or pieces of it into the record for the board to vote to adopt, which we could then get a nice letterhead from the board and get that out to all of our staff. And those citizen teams supporting them, just to acknowledge and thank them. Given it's nearly Thanksgiving, I thought that was appropriate.
Sure, and I had asked Craig earlier if he would be willing to read this as the clerk, so he's going to read the long letter.
Long version.
Long version.
Letter of appreciation to the election workers and employees of the town of Easton. The COVID-19 pandemic has upended the normal ebb and flow of daily life for all of us. Recent weeks have brought national attention to local governmental operations that typically go under the radar with little fanfare, that is the administration of elections. On November 3rd, thousands of Easton residents participated in a safe and healthy election and were able to witness the culmination of collective effort, which we have had the great privilege to see for many months now. The successful planning, communicating, and implementation of elections spread out over weeks of early voting, months of administrative efforts, and for many excited voters, years of anticipation. The overwhelming positive feedback from the public is testament to how incredibly talented you are to make such a task, administrating an election in a pandemic, look like another day's work. We understand, however, that the election and so much of this year have been anything but another day's work, and that the continued operation of the town has hinged on the extraordinary performance of our employees, joining together with volunteers across boards and committees, as well as community responders like CERT. Throughout this crisis, our staff and the volunteers who work with them have demonstrated time and again they are emblematic of the best of public service. Whether it is the sleepless nights in the town clerk's office, the frenzied days, and the incredible election workers and volunteers who turned out in the pandemic to support them, or the teamwork of our first responders in police and fire, working with the Department of Health and Community Services together with our incredible CERT team to keep the polls safe and healthy for all. Or behind the scenes laboring of Public Works to erect various virus guards, place distance markers, move tents, and set up booths. You all rose to the incredible challenges placed before you. It is impossible to adequately cover all of the specific and individual items that each different department, employee, and volunteer contributed to the greater whole. Suffice it to say, your individual effort came together through a collective purpose to ensure that voters in Easton could safely and comfortably exercise their rights under incredible circumstances that none of us could have ever imagined. But while the election is one of the most visible and recent examples of such incredible efforts, it is not the only one. Despite the challenges posed by COVID-19, ambulances and police cruisers still show up at a moment's notice. Veterans' benefits are still processed. Roads are still paved. Sewer and water mains are installed and repaired. Permits are issued. Long-term plans for housing, infrastructure, and the environment continue. Critical messaging around public health is delivered. Information technology systems are maintained. Budgets are planned, adopted, and accounted for. The whole business of the public marches on. For all of that, we say thank you to the town of Easton employees and those who support them. Your example speaks truth to the incredible good brought by working together, and you are an inspiration to the Select Board. Thank you for everything you do. We thank the residents of Easton for their continued resiliency in the face of this pandemic, and we ask that they join in our recognition and thanks of our election workers, first responders, and all employees. We are all in this together. With gratitude, Select Board, today, 16th of November, 2020.
Thank you, Craig. Just going to go around and ask if anyone has any comments, and then we'll take a consensus to have this drafted if the board is in agreement with it, to have this finalized if the board's in agreement. So, Craig?
Said it all. I read it all.
Tom?
There's nothing more to be added. It was a very well said statement. I would just personally say thank you as well.
Chuck?
I couldn't have said it as well as Craig did, and I do feel that we're very lucky to have such a group of people doing the work they did under a very stressful situation. Thank you.
Mark?
Easton is very fortunate, and this has probably been the worst year in decades, probably since I've been alive. So, thank you.
And I agree with everybody's comments. We're very, very lucky to have such a great staff, and they go over and above all the time. But in this particular year, it's really very, very much appreciated, and I'm glad we were able to recognize that. And Connor, thank you for drafting this and bringing it forward to us. So, do we have to take an official vote, or is the consensus that we can finalize this?
The draft did say adopted by vote, so I would just ask for a motion to adopt the letter as presented.
Okay.
So moved. Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Roger Broussard?
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Janetti, yes. Thank you. All right, next, we'll go to item 4, which is the acceptance of the resignation of Paul DeCudo from the Commission on Disabilities effective October 28th, 2020. I would just like to say that I have been sitting in with the Commission on Disability for a couple of months now, and Paul was a great contributor and really appreciate his input on that committee. So we would be accepting his resignation with regret. It would be, I need a motion, a second, and then we'll take a roll call vote.
Barger.
Second, Broussard.
That was Barger Broussard.
Barger, DeCudo.
Broussard, DeCudo.
King, DeCudo.
Lamb, DeCudo.
And full Janetti DeCudo. And that open position will be advertised by the clerk. So if anyone's interested in filling that commission, position, please look at the town website under volunteers and send in an application. Next is a contract award for the Town of Plymouth Regional Secondary Road Salt bid with Eastern Minerals.
So attached in the board's packet, you will, for both item 5 and 6, find a memo submitted by DPW Director Dave Field, as well as 2 separate salt contracts. So this is our standard process. Each year, the Department of Public Works, usually through a regional bidding consortium, this time the town of Plymouth on behalf of numerous other cities and towns, 38 of them specifically, solicited bids for the purchase of road salt for the winter. Public Works always splits that up and buys from 2 suppliers so that we don't have all of our eggs in one basket in the event that there are any supply chain disruptions from major snow events. Hopefully not. I think we learned a mild winter after this year, but I could hear Public Works cursing me for jinxing it from here. This has been reviewed by Public Works, myself, and I would recommend the board award of a primary road salt contract to Champion Salt LLC for $110,400, and that the secondary road salt contract be awarded to Eastern Minerals Incorporated for $68,250.
Separate, but we have to do it separately, or can we do it both together?
You could do that both together as I just listed.
Before we do that, did anyone have any comments or questions?
I do not.
Okay. Greg, did you want to make that motion?
So moved.
Second, Broussard?
So Barger, Broussard,
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes?
Lamb, yes.
full Janetti, yes. Thank you. Next is discussion and vote for an acceptance of gifts of land to the Conservation Commission. That is 348 Foundry Street and 2 Goodspeed Estates.
Sure. So in the board's packet, you'll find 2 sets of memos and corresponding deed documents for 2 separate acceptances of land. Both of these memos are from Andrea Langhauser from on behalf of the Conservation Commission. They have their own meeting happening tonight, so I'm filling in for Andrea and the Commission. But all the information you need is effectively in the packet. These are 2 separate gifts of land to the town through its Conservation Commission that, as part of the normal process to accept that, the Conservation Commission has already voted to accept, but the Select Board, as the executives for the town, need to do the same. So we could take them one at a time. The first one is a memo and deed associated with 348 Foundry Street. It is a 3.7 acre parcel, and the acceptance of this gift was accepted by the Conservation Commission in August because it contains sensitive natural resources, including a vernal pool. It expands the permanently protected lands held by the town of Easton and Concom and the Department of Fish and Game, which is the Hockomock Swamp Wildlife Management Area. And much like the other piece, these are low tax generating parcels that are largely wet and not developable and are gifted as part of broader projects as an in-kind contribution that is part of the manner in which the developer is able to receive approval for their subdivision developments. I hope I didn't butcher that too much.
Anyone have any comments or questions on that one? Well, I would say if the Conservation Commission, if it's good enough for them, then I trust that they have that for a reason, and I would follow suit with that. So if somebody would like to make a motion and a second to accept.
Sorry, I'll the approval, Dottie, if I could, the language from the memo would be for the Select Board of Easton to approve the conveyance of the 3.71 acres shown as parcel A on the plan entitled Modified Estate Lot Plan 348 Foundry Street.
I'll move, Barger.
Second, Broussard?
Barger, Broussard,
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes?
Lamb, yes.
full Janetti, yes. Okay, and the next one for Goodspeed Estates.
Sure. So similar concept. In this case, it is 3 parcels of land, just over 19 total acres in size. It's associated with the 8-lot subdivision off of Center Street, known as Goodspeed Estates. It's identified in your packet as parcel B and C, and the open space parcel. Council has reviewed and found a clear title. The Conservation Commission voted to accept this gift in November. It includes sensitive natural resources and publicly accessible uplands. The land is provided at essentially no cost to the town, and that contribution was required by the planning board as part of the planning and zoning board's flexible development subdivision approval, and was also a condition of wetland waivers from the Concom as part of this project. So basically, in order to get relief on certain density and wetlands parts of the project proper, this gift was required.
Anyone have any comments or questions?
I do have a question. Just I drive by this like every day down Center Street, and I always look and you see Goodspeed Estates, and it's this clear cut, and it looks like there's just pipes coming out of the ground. Is that the area that's being gifted, or is it an area behind that?
One moment, and I will pull a map. If you go to page 71 of your packet.
Yeah, I'm there right now.
Okay. Center Street is off to the right. So it appears, sorry, the map is not the best. It is now at the tail end. So Goodspeed it's from Center Street, moves towards the left. There's a small cul-de-sac at the end of it, and you'll see the 13.62 acre is right at the end of it, Mark. So it's kind of in the, it's not visible really from the road.
Okay, and this hasn't been touched. It's obviously not the clear cut portion.
I have not been out there, so I can't say whether or not that's been clear cut, but I assume if it's going to be accepted by the Conservation Commission for sensitive natural resources, that it has not been touched.
Okay.
That's hard to see through that map was not a very good map too, but.
Yeah, it looks like the scan just was poor. The map itself is fine. It's just the scan lost some of the detail, and I did not notice that until now. I apologize for that. We'll get a better version for future items like this.
Looks like it's behind a cul-de-sac.
Yes.
Okay, would somebody like to make the motion to accept the gift of land from Goodspeed Estates?
So moved, Bart.
Do we have to specify the details, Connor, of the map 8R parcels 500, 501, 502?
In this document, the motion would be the select board approving the conveyance of parcel B, C, and open space parcel associated with Goodspeed Estates.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Barger, Broussard,
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes. Thank you. The next up is the vote on the proposed select board meeting schedule for 2021. I can't believe we're talking about that already, but anxious to be finished looking at 2020. Did anybody have any? We looked at the calendar, as always, trying to avoid any conflicts or conflicts with different holidays. And anybody see anything on there that looked unusual or thought there was a problem?
No, but in all fairness, I don't know what I'm doing next week, let alone a year from now. But it looks good.
I appreciate the opportunity to look at it too, so that,
Yes.
So thank you for that.
All right. If somebody would like to make a motion to accept the proposed select board meeting schedule, and that is the tentative schedule, of course, as you know, sometimes we add meetings, sometimes we change meetings, but we do that with the proper 48-hour notice for open meetings. So you get a motion and a second to accept the proposed select board meeting schedule.
Moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Barger, Broussard,
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
and full yes. Thank you. Next is the standing update for COVID response in Easton. Connor, take it away.
Sure, thank you, Dottie. I'm just pulling my standard presentation up. So thank you, Dottie, and to the board. As it has been our practice since March, I provide the board with an update on some of the key trends that we keep an eye on here, as well as any new information from the national or state level that are relevant to our ongoing COVID response efforts. And starting kind of from the biggest form of government down, taking a look at the US. So as of today, the US remains the epicenter of the global pandemic. Unfortunately, by nearly all metrics, things are worsening meaningfully from just 2 weeks ago when we last met. We are over 11 million confirmed cases cumulatively. We are nearing 250,000 folks having lost their lives, with the daily rate of death increasing back above 1,000 again. The daily case numbers have been exploding. The 7-day average right now is over 150,000 new cases being confirmed in the United States every day. And the test positive rate has been going up meaningfully and is now over 12%. And on this graph, this table on the left here, you can see it's basically starting in April, where the country is on a monthly basis. And obviously things over the summer, as many health experts predicted, because people were able to be outside, some restrictions were still in place. Cases after July dropped pretty steadily towards Labor Day. And so you see, for instance, between September 1st and October 1st, we confirmed in the United States 1.2 million new cases. And that rate has sped up. If you look at October 1st to November, we've confirmed almost 2 million in that time. And if you just look at the past 15 days from November 1st to today, we're at nearly 2 million. So the rate of cases is the actual number of cases on a daily basis are growing, and the speed of the cumulative growth is increasing. And I don't know where my the speaker view shows up on this panel, but if you look at this graph, this is the rolling 7-day average of cases in the United States. This comes from the Johns Hopkins University dashboard. Again, rolling average of new daily cases of COVID in September was about 30,000 a day, and now we are at more than 5 times that. The rolling average is over 150,000 per day. The United States is setting records with a disturbing level of frequency. I think we passed over 170,000 cases in one day last week. So when you look at this visualized, obviously you had the first wave in the spring, the July peak, the valley down in September, and now it's going up at an increasingly vertical rate. And some folks point out, well, we weren't testing as much in the spring, and that's a completely fair point. So it's difficult to make an apples to apples comparison of daily cases being confirmed now compared to the spring, because in the spring the test availability was so scarce. However, there are other metrics that are more controlled, like hospitalizations and death, and unfortunately those are increasing as well. Hospitalizations in the United States have more than doubled since Labor Day, since there were around 30,000 folks in the hospital, and now we're nearing 70,000. And as I mentioned earlier, the rate of fatality, the number of folks who are losing their life every day is increasing once again. This is what that graph looked like a month ago. So 1 month ago, this is the slide from that kind of biweekly update, and this is what it looks like today, which really kind of visualizes the impact of rapid growth. This is from the COVID exit strategy. This is a website that aggregates publicly available health data, and it is used by Governor Baker for the travel restrictions, which states are allowed and which are not. For a long time, the Northeast was a little island of green. So this is what this map shows is the test positive rate in every single state in the United States, kind of like a traffic light, with green being the best and red being the worst. However, recently, they've had to add new color to this. The map used to go to red, now it includes purple and black to note extraordinary test positive rates above 30 and 50%, which is horrible, very, very, very bad. Hopefully Massachusetts, which is around 5%, which is worse than where we were, but still significantly better off than some of our neighbors in the United States. Hopefully we're not ending up in any of these red or purple areas, but it's worth noting that they've had to add new colors to this to quantify the severity of spread in these communities. Again, this is what that map looked like a month ago. So you had that kind of island of green in the northeast. That is no longer the case with the exception of Vermont. And again, back then, 15% and deep red was the most severe. And now we've added purple and black for 30 and 50% test positive rates.
And the purple is the worst?
Purple is the worst. That is indicative of 50% or more coronavirus tests being administered are coming back showing positive, which is
Wow.
very bad. I obviously am not intimately familiar with the testing protocols in the Midwestern states. Perhaps they have test shortages. I haven't read that, but it's not good. So COVID in Massachusetts, as of yesterday, 188,000 total cases. We've, since the last meeting, passed a kind of grim milestone in the state of more than 10,000 residents having lost their lives. The biweekly daily incidence per 100,000, that's one of the metrics the Department of Public Health uses for quantifying risk, is 20 in the state, and we'll compare Easton to that in a bit. And the average percent positivity rate is 3% in Massachusetts. So again, this is from Johns Hopkins University. This is the rolling 7-day average of positive tests in Massachusetts. And again, like the graph for the United States, it is heading up sharply. Daily cases in Massachusetts continue to trend upward. The average daily cases in Massachusetts have more than quadrupled since the beginning of October, with more than 1,000 cases being confirmed every day since October 23rd. Hospitalization rates in Massachusetts have climbed, not as dramatically as in the rest of the United States at this point, but they are on the rise. They've more than doubled since Labor Day. And the governor has announced a variety of new restrictions and interventions to continue to try to fight this. Again, just for kind of illustrative purposes, this is what that graph looked like a month ago. And here we are now. So it really, once it starts picking up pace, it can kind of run away. So the travel order that the governor issued in August is still in effect. Folks should go to the mass.gov website to follow that as far as any kind of planned travel and plan for getting tests and reporting that through to the DPH. I believe we touched on this at the last meeting on November 2nd. They were just announced that day, and I think most people are aware of it at this point, but given what we're looking at, you can't repeat these things enough. There's a new stay-at-home advisory in Massachusetts that instructs the public to be home between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. except for necessary activities like going to work. Restaurants have to stop table service at 9:30. Liquor sales must stop at 9:30 at package stores, restaurants. Entertainment has to end at 9:30. Gathering sizes have been limited to 10 people indoors and 25 people outside. That's something that the governor spends a lot of energy on. If you watch any of his press conferences, that a significant amount of spread, which has been the case in Easton as well, is happening in informal gatherings, at parties, at places where all of us, frankly, are exhausted. People have been isolated. They have not been able to enjoy the celebratory parts of life that frankly make it worth living for too long. And some folks are letting their guard down and having folks, friends, family members from other households in large groups come spend time with them inside with their masks off, and you're seeing a lot of spread in Massachusetts from that. And so people really need to keep their guard up. I know it feels weird putting a mask on in your own house, but if you have people from outside of your house visiting, it's the right thing to do. So COVID in Easton, I believe this was known at the last meeting. If the state had been releasing every week a color-coded map for risk in each community, they have changed the methodology for how to quantify that quite meaningfully. We put a press release out about it, and they don't issue the map anymore. I won't editorialize that, but I generally don't find it helpful to take data visualization tools away. So we no longer will have maps from the state. And the metrics have changed. So I'll get into that when we get into Easton's numbers. So as of last Wednesday, Easton has had a cumulative 433 cases. As of Halloween, we've had 36 residents lose their life to COVID. This is probably the important part of the presentation for the board and for the public, anyone watching, anyone thinking about Thanksgiving plans, is just like the state, we are seeing in Easton our biweekly rate of coronavirus increasing noticeably. If you look at the right side of this graph, you can see a pretty sharp incline there, which is unsettling, to say the least. Again, it's tough to do an apples to apples comparison to the spring because of how limited tests were, but what we know is that the reported cases we are getting on a biweekly basis right now in Easton is at the highest level it's been since May. The average biweekly case growth in October was about 15. So every 2 weeks in Easton, about 15 people were getting COVID. So far in November, halfway through the month, on average, that's 41 people every 2 weeks, which is an increase of 168%. It's more than double, and the graph visualizes it, is significantly higher than what we've seen since spring. So again, you can't make an apples to apples comparison necessarily to spring because tests were harder to come by, but we can look at the past few months and pretty clearly see that this is trending up in the wrong direction. In August, we were getting about 13 folks every 2 weeks with COVID. In September, about 13 folks. In October, about 15, and now it's 41. So here's the detail of that. So beginning on November 4th, the Commonwealth changed. Not only do they no longer issue a map visualizing on the green, yellow, and red scale for risk levels, they changed the thresholds for those risk levels. So everything before November 4th, if you had a daily incidence rate of more than 8 cases per 100,000, you would be red and in high risk. That was changed for November, and so despite Easton now having the past 2 weeks the highest incidence rate we have had since DPH began reporting these in August, we were considered low risk last week and at medium risk for the most recent week, because they now consider a couple of things. One is that you need to have more, for a town our size, you need to have more than 10 cases per 100,000 occurring on a daily basis, which in Easton's case is, I think, 4 per day. And you need to have a test positive rate of greater than 5%. And our test positive rate, thankfully, is still quite low. In the interest of transparency, we have Stonehill College here still operating, and they do a tremendous volume of tests, the overwhelming amount of which come back negative. So it will be interesting to see from a data perspective what happens to that positive rate once those students are sent home for Thanksgiving and do not come back. That's going to drop the number of negative tests being put into the pool. So if we see our test rate go up after Thanksgiving, it's not necessarily an indicator that there's additional spread. The data pool from which they'll be basing that will just be quite different once Stonehill goes home for the season, which is Thanksgiving. So case growth that we're seeing is attributable to general community spread. There's no specific clusters really driving this. Again, it's kind of just the reality that it's a highly contagious virus. It will spread when there is opportunity, and as folks move activities indoors, and when they have parties and things like that, it's going to spread. And you see that borne out in our numbers. If you look at The first week that the DPH report was available, we had 7 cases over a 2-week period. Now we have 49. That's a significant increase. And like the state, we're seeing a large amount of cases being driven by younger adults, folks, teenagers, folks under 30. Our current average daily incidence rate and our test positive rate, although they are an uptick for Easton, are still quite a bit below where Massachusetts is as a whole, which is good. But as you've seen from the other slides, everything is increasing in Massachusetts as well. So it can't kind of be, I'm sure everyone would probably like to never hear this again, but we need to do, the things that we know work. And there's a lot of information, science, over time, new data points come out. There's information about vaccines, which are great, but fundamentally, there's some really simple things we all know work and do a lot of work to help control the spread. Wear a mask when you're with others. Keep your distance from folks and limit your gatherings, which is really difficult to ask of people as we head into Thanksgiving. But I would ask, I know I'll be doing it, and it's difficult for families to limit the amount of people you see, especially after such a tough year. But in the United States, things are trending up. Massachusetts, they're trending up. Easton, they're trending up. So I really would just ask people to try and follow that guidance from the governor and do the right thing. I don't have any specific service updates from town. We continue to be available for appointments in person, otherwise closed, and offering services remotely. Police, fire, public works, fully operational. Board of Health, Department of Health and Community Services, and regular contact with the schools. The Easton Emergency Management Team is meeting multiple times every single week to keep an eye on these trends and plan for the coming months, which all indicators are maybe relatively challenging. So we ask folks to keep doing the right things they've been doing and keep being tough for the sake of those more vulnerable in the community. So that's what I have prepared. I'm happy to take any questions from the board if you have any.
Any questions from anyone on the board?
Connor, I appreciate your diligence on this, meeting after meeting. And I do see some hopeful signs on the horizon with news of vaccines. And I think it's very important, as you've been saying, for people to hang in there, and we'll find our way through this.
I think we're all getting very, very tired of all the restrictions that we have to put into place, but those are absolutely necessary. And as Chuck said, the exciting news about the vaccine, Moderna's vaccine is 94.5% effective, which is extraordinary. And the bigger issue is going to be distribution and production of the vaccines, both Pfizer's vaccine as well as Moderna's vaccine, and how quickly we can get it out to people and how long it lasts. We don't know at this point whether the effectiveness is long-term.
And that's a really good point that I think everyone is excited about and ought to be, but until it's rolled out, nothing changes. And I know no one wants to hear that, but until that has been widely deployed at a population scale, you got to have masks and you have to keep distance and you need to do these. COVID doesn't really care if a vaccine's on the way. If you have a big house party with someone who's sick, everyone's still going to get sick.
I guess one of the things that I'm really most worried about is our older people, or people that live alone, and just this constant watching the TV just feels like it's a constant barrage of bad news. And I'm worried about people in their mental health and depression and things like that. I was talking to Connor about this earlier, and Connor, I don't know if you want to mention some of the outreach that we've been able to do.
Sure. So that is when I give these presentations, I hope for anyone in the public who watches, I do not just because of the kind of impossibility of the level of detail get into all the day-to-day things that we're doing. We're not just kind of looking at these numbers and saying, oh, that looks bad, and let's move on. We try to do what we can locally to assist. And so obviously we've had programs like the free flu clinic for staff and members of the community and families rolled out to great success. Hundreds of people received flu vaccines through the Department of Health and Community Services, which was great. And also through Deputy Director Honan, working with Director Kennedy and other folks in our Health and Community Services Department. They are, as part of senior work-off programs, doing wellness checks, calling folks, checking in with them, just to try and maintain that level of human contact with our senior population. Because Dottie is right, it's easy to kind of preach of, oh, well, everyone should keep their distance, but the isolation is a really severe challenge for all of us, and particularly for medically vulnerable folks and seniors. And so the Health and Community Services Department is, making contact calls and checking in with folks as well. And one other effort recently, Mayor Sullivan and Brockton did also recently convene a kind of regional meeting with town managers and administrators to continue encouraging good communication about local level policy in the greater Brockton area, which is going to be an ongoing program through the mayor's office that I think will be helpful for all of us as well.
Thanks. So I guess I would ask people, if there's somebody in your neighborhood or somebody that you know that lives alone, drop them a card in the mail or make a phone call, reach out. It's really important, those human touches. And, I think I've said this before, I've seen so much kindness in our community with people that really are caring for others and making meals and, meal pickups at lunch pickups at the school and things like that. But if somebody is in trouble and they don't know what to do, reach out to somebody. You can always email the select board, and our email address is selectboard@easton.ma.us. We'll put you in contact with the right people. And this board really cares a lot about the people in the community. So while we go through a lot of the administrative parts of what this means, we really all do think of this on a personal level. We all live here. We all have families here. Some of us have parents and siblings and children. So we really want to make sure that we're sticking through this. I think Connor said it in the memo that we read earlier. We are all in this together. So I appreciate the kindness of everybody. Does anybody have any select board notes that they wanted to comment on? No. Okay. Well, with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Roger Broussard.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
I am yes.
And Full Janetti, yes. And we hope everyone has a healthy and safe Thanksgiving. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Stay safe, everybody.
Good night. Happy holiday.